think we're about time to get started here. Let's see, am I on? Okay. Oops, yeah, I think, there we go. Let's see if this is working. I don't hear me either. Let's see, I'm going to talk, let's see if I get actually connected. Hello. Yeah, he's trying to do the connection part. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to keep talking. I'm not sure why. Oops. Okay. I'm saying, yeah. Well, that'll be fun because there's no way I'm loud enough for anyone to hear me.
In Raleigh, North Carolina. 3 hours.
There we go. Let's see what happens. Hey. Okay, she's in a tank top. And I'm in this and I'm freezing. That's just not even fair.
When she starts talking, we can see.
Yeah, okay. I'm just going to keep talking and see. He's trying to fix this. So at some point, I will actually be
Are you supposed to start
amplified.
2:45?
Yeah. So we're there. So let's see. Oh, there we go. It got fixed. Now it can be heard. Yay. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and get started for our next segment here. And let y'all find a seat. You're good. So my name's Elizabeth Love Kennon, and I'm here from Hope Reins in Raleigh, North Carolina, where I am the Equine Training Manager. So I have the super fun job of training the horses to do the work that they do and training the people to work with the horses who do that work that they do. Okay, I keep knocking into this. I'm afraid I'm going to lose it. So I wanted to just begin by sharing some stories about where we've come from. And what we've seen here this morning, I'm blown away. Everybody that has presented, I've learned from. I've been just so impressed with the depth of knowledge, what's been shared, what's been brought out. And I'm going to be taking things back a few steps. And this is why. I've been with Hope Reins for 8.5 years, and when I first came to the ranch, Kim actually invited me in to help with a horse that they were having some challenges with. And I was like, well, hopefully I can help you. So I got to meet Kim, I got to meet Sarah, who's a rescued saddlebred, who was everything you would imagine from a rescued saddlebred. And in starting to work with them and begin to get to know them, Kim actually came and asked me what was a really profound question. And she said, we have all of these horses and they're getting really sour and they're burned out and they're not really happy with what they're doing. And do we need to look at selling them or giving them away and getting new horses? And that was like, first of all, the courage and honesty to look at a situation, assess it, and say, help. And I remember thinking, no, we don't. We need to start working with them differently. And what had happened, Hope Reins was growing and doing beautiful work, and kids were being touched really powerfully. But in any given month, we could have up to 150 different people handling the horses. And as Jesse, who was in here last, was just mentioning, for a horse, it doesn't go, oh, you're the trainer, this is a training session. Any interaction for a horse is a training interaction. So the person who comes out to feed, the person who's mucking, stalls or dry lots, the person who's leading a horse from point A to point B, the horse takes all of that in with equal weight. So if you think about it, we had, we fed twice a day. We had a feed team for the morning, a feed team for the evening, 7 days a week. We had the children that we served. We had the program volunteers that were the mentors for them. And we had, at that time, a training team. So each horse had an individual person who gave it love and attention and spent time with them. And what we were doing was kind of a patchwork quilt of various natural horsemanship techniques. but it was as individualized as whatever given person was working with that horse. So after a while, the horses had begun to be like, yeah, not so much. I'm not interested. Yeah, and I remember, early on, taking one of the horses out from its field and watching as we brought it down. Oops, I've got a lot of feedback. Watching as we brought it across the grass, and this pony was just dumpster diving for grass, and the little kid that was on the other end of the line is being hauled from point to point to point, and the volunteer that was helping him was, doing a wrestling match with the pony, which goes exactly as well as you would imagine. We had horses that would get within 20 feet of the ring and stop dead. It's like, nope, not moving, not going anywhere. And they would come in, those that, horses can respond differently to situations. Some will internalize and just shut down and go, this is my safe place, you're just going away right now. Other ones started to bite, started to cow kick, would be, girthy, would all of the things. So, it's like, here we're serving kids, we're growing, we're doing fabulous, and our horses were filling out a different report card for us. And so one of the things that we began to do was we recognized the need to create a unified language that spoke to all of our horses, and that all of the people that handled them, from the people who were the tip of the spear, you are there in sessions with the child, doing a thing, to the people who came on Sunday morning and put feed bowls out and hay and everything else, but that everybody was talking the same language. So I'm sure that we were not the only ones that have run into this. That this is a common thing with horses. So in looking at it, we call it HRH, for Hope Reins Horsemanship. It's just a mouthful. So when we talked about putting this together, there were some really specific things that we needed it to do. So one of the things was we recognized that most of us had horse experience, that were working there with the horses, but it was diverse. People had done barrel racing, people had done Western pleasure showing, done English hunters, had done dressage, had done pleasure trail riding, had done natural horsemanship. So in most of what we had done, our paradigm was around performance. It was about what we could get a horse to do. And looking at this, and not that that's a bad thing, that's a good and useful thing. But what we were doing right now is we were looking at horses who had a relational job and having to take a really deep, thoughtful dive into how do we accentuate the relational part of our interaction with horses. So if we don't nurture relationship with our horses, when we pull them out for sessions, they're not going to be looking for a relationship with the kids that come and that we serve. We have something we say at Hope Reins all the time. We want horses to know that people are good news. And by good news, I don't mean we come bearing treats. We don't do treats for our horses, by hand for the most part. That's generally not a good idea with kids. But that we're good news because of how we show up with the horses. So we're looking at something that was relationship first. The other part was we have horse people that come to volunteer at our ministry, but we have even more non-horse people that come to volunteer. So, some people come with a lifetime of experience, and some people come with a heart from Jesus for children, and they rode a little bit as a child, or they always wanted a horse and they loved them, or they were a little nervous about horses, but were willing to be taught. So it's like this whole spectrum of raw beginners to people who have a whole lot of experience. And I'll be really honest with you, and I think you guys can understand, sometimes it was easier to teach beginners than it was people with experience that had a very deeply set track of this is how we're going, this is what it looks like. But we needed to find a way of doing this and of talking about it that would work equally well for the new beginner that was coming in that is called of the Lord and would be an amazing session volunteer. And nice horse, like that's all they've got. And the person who is still barrel racing and has her own horses and is a fabulous rider and all of that. And I say to people all the time, bring your love for horses, bring your comfort with horses, bring your ability to read them, bring all of that heart you have for them. But all of the technique and all of the paradigm, we're just going to put a little pin in that, and when you come onto the property, we're just going to leave that at the gate because we're going to do things a little bit differently here. And when you go off the property, pick it back up again. One of the things I say all the time, Hope Reins Horsemanship is not the only way to work with horses. It is what we have found to be the most effective way to work with horses who have a relational job. And so that's what makes it unique. If I were to be taking a horse through upper level dressage, it's what I'd use for my foundation. But I would go on to do other things. So it's not like this is the only way. But again, our horses are really unique. So it had to be easy for non-horse people to learn and people who had different horse experience to be able to follow. The other part was, and we talked about this a lot, we wanted our horsemanship to integrate with how we worked with our kids. So what we don't want is, okay, here's my horse hat, and I'm working with horses and I'm a horse person, and now here's my programs hat, and I'm working with kids. Because that's really sticky and awkward and ew. So, we talk about all the time, when kids come into sessions, we have a rescued horse and a trained mentor and the Holy Spirit. And we want to be able to speak the same language to the horse as we're speaking to the children, as our hearts are speaking to God. So we want every bit of this to integrate. And I'm going to put in a shameless plug for Ashley at 4 o'clock. She's going to be talking about the program half of this and what does this look like from the program's perspective. She'll be in the cozy room. But so it needed to integrate. It couldn't be horse exclusive. It needed to use the language, it needed to use the heart, it needed to use the principles that we were looking at how God was wanting us to reach these kids and how he was moving through us to do that. And the other part was it needed to be sustainable. It had to be able to grow with us as we grow. It had to be able to build capacity and to prevent burnout. And that means preventing burnout in our herd first. Because our horses were the ones that were going, waving the white flag. It's like, we can't do this. Well, I know. So it had to be able to work as our program grew, as we brought in more kids, and as we brought in more session mentors. So we have more and more people dealing at the tip of that spear. And so I wanted to talk about, so what did we come up with? This was a tall order for us. I know, who's out there? Not to be left out. But we wanted, in working with Hope Reins Horsemanship, we needed to develop horses who were safe, horses who sought relationships with people, and horses who could bring their voice to a conversation. And I know for a lot of people, it's like, well, I'm not exactly sure if I want my horse to bring the voice to the conversation. And in truth, we had a lot of horses that were burnt down and burn out. And so when I started, we started working with them and helping them get back. And just like a child, you've got a little kid that's learning to talk. What's the first word they learn? Using that, mama. But when they first started talking, like around 2, it's no. And one of the things we recognized, and it's so important, just like with people, if we can't say an honest no, then we also can't offer an honest yes. So if our horses aren't able to tell us when they have a no, then their yes is compliance, but it's not connection. And so we have to be able to listen for what is our horse's no. What does that look like? And then, because it's a conversation, we have to be able to introduce our voice in it as well and help work them through from that no to that yes. They are just so sweet. I know. You darling things. So in looking at that, those are some of the things we were looking for. Now, when we were looking at, okay, we were putting this together, and as we were training people to work with horses, we identified 4 unique areas that were super, super important in growing in our capacity to work with horses. The first, and again, Jesse was talking about this here just in the last hour, is trust. It's if we don't have trust both ways, our horse has to trust us, and we have to be able to trust them. You don't pass go, you don't collect $200. It doesn't happen. The second one is boundaries. So I have to be able to express safe boundaries for myself. I want to make sure I don't get run over or bitten or kicked or stepped on or any of the things. And I have to respect my horse's boundaries. And so I'm going to use you as an example to see this. We have little kids come all the time and they go, oh, I want to touch the horse. And yeah, exactly. And what I say to people is the horse feels about their faces a lot like how we feel about ours. So as awkward as it is for me, and I've only just met you today, to come over and touch you on the face, it's that awkward for horses. So what does it look like to approach horses with a sensitivity to their boundaries, to recognize, to ask for permission to come into their space? And I want y'all to think about this. Who are the kids we serve? What's happened to their boundaries? How badly have they been violated? And for them to, and a lot of these kids are unwilling or unable to talk about that in terms of themselves. But when we begin to talk about this in terms of the horse that they're partnered with, the lights start coming on, those connections start happening, and if the horse is worthy of having their boundaries, their physical boundaries respected, how much more so this child? So I'm going to get teared up. It's this is really, really profound. God uses this to reestablish places that are really deeply broken with the kids that come to us. The next is communication. We need to be able to communicate. We need to have a shared language. So if I do a thing with the horse, they need to know understand what I'm asking them to do. And I need to also, here's the other thing, the horse didn't choose to be here. I chose to be here, and I brought the horse in. So it is my responsibility to build a bridge to that horse. Anyone who has a problem horse, for the most part, if you look at them in the field, they're not having a problem. Like I said, the horse is having a people problem. So it's our responsibility to create a language where the horse feels like, oh, okay, I'm understanding what you're asking of me. I'm confident in that. I'm able to go forward with that. And then the fourth area is leadership. And for so many of these kids to be able to step into the place where they can be an effective leader for a horse, the kind of confidence that gives back to them, what that builds for them is just tremendous. We talk about this all the time. I have the most wonderful boss, the director of operations, Jen Shepard, and she has a saying. She said, we break in relationships and we heal in relationships. And God uses relationships in our life to bring that healing back again. And in the process of looking for a way to work with horses, what we began to recognize is we were identifying the steps it took to create healthy relationships. So if you look at it, trust, boundaries, communication, leadership, this is what God works through us in building a healthy relationship with other people. And so, again, You can't sit down with 7-year-old Johnny, who has the attention span of a hyperactive gnat, and is running all over the place and go, let's talk about these relational dynamics. That's not going to happen. But you can say, maybe don't stick your hand in his face. And this is why. And let's look at that. What if you reach out this way? And the concept comes through at a developmentally appropriate, way, and they get to have not cognitive knowledge of what this is like, but an experience of it. And that just goes so much deeper. And so as we identified those, we looked at it and said, oh my goodness, these are 4 skills that horses are brilliant at teaching us that develop resiliency in kids affected by trauma. And so it's one of the things, again, we talk about, we have the horse side, we have the program side, and now they're like this. And so what we're doing with horses, trust, boundaries, communication, leadership, that's what we're doing in mentorship and discipleship with our kids. And we use the same language, we use the same kind of ideas, and we use the horses as a place for them to try these things on. Intentionally, deliberately, and God gives us surprises all the time in a most wonderful way. But this is what we're doing, and it's all going together for the same thing. And so the Hope Reins Horsemanship, when we talk about ministering to our kids, just to give you kind of an overview, we have 3 distinct areas in ministering to our kids. And we talk about building in skills for resilience, helping them encounter God for true hope and real healing. Those areas are number 1, mentorship, number 2, horsemanship, and number 3, discipleship. And so you can see how those 3 legs of a stool can build. You have relationship with the person, you have relationship with the horse, you have relationship with God. And all of these are through a relational grid. And at Hope Reins, we value relationship so highly. And the Hope Reins Horsemanship, it gives clarity and direction to the horsemanship portion of our ministry, as well as folding in seamlessly with the mentorship and discipleship portion. So we're putting this together, and it took us a number of years, probably about 5 years I had a pastor that used to say, try, fail, adjust. It used to offend me at first. As I've gotten older, I go, there's a lot of grace in that. I like that. So, we would try, fail, adjust. We tried things. It was, as I was sharing with Sharon earlier, we did things really complicated. We realized this can get easier. So we would adjust it down and weed out what wasn't working. And what we distilled down were some principles that drove our paradigm for horsemanship. And the first part of it, and I teach clinics at our ranch all the time, and I always talk about, it begins with a paradigm shift. Because we're out in the world, and I don't know about y'all, and I'm pretty good at chilling out with horses and all of that, but when I'm out in the world, man, I'm clocking, I'm doing things. I've got stuff to do, I've got places to go, I've got stuff I've got to check off my list. My brain's going. There's tasks, there's things. And I'm an introvert and kind of a low gear kind of gal, and I'm like that. So how much more so the kids that come in and everything else. So the first thing we look at is slowing down. We take people all the time, and it's take a look, we've got 2 beautiful mares there. If we had an energy scale from 1 to 10, 10 being bucking, leaping, farting, galloping, and 1 being fast asleep on the ground, what would you put their energy level at? Yeah, 3 has been the consensus. That was what was in my mind too. It's a 3. Now, when I usually go to walk in and do something, I promise you my energy is above a 3. So, it's the first part, slow down. Check my own energy at the door. Take a look at my horse. I'm always thinking about how do I meet my horse in the conversation they're having, which doesn't necessarily mean a doing thing, but horses are masterful at presence, at being. They know how to be. They're hanging out with a hay net, and being with each other. They're really happy because they're buddies. They can't be separated, so we have a 2-for-1 special. But slow it down, downshift. Big breath in, big breath out. Okay, there we go. And then the slowing down is the first prerequisite, because the second thing is listening to the horse. So if I'm going, running, doing, busy, I'm up in my head. And I don't have a lot of room to take in input. So I've got to slow things down so that I can listen to what my horse might be saying to me, or avoiding, whatever that looks like. So we begin with that paradigm shift. We slow down. We prepare ourselves to listen to the horse. And then the very first principle in HRH is it is always, always about the relationship. And again, Jen, another one of her sayings, relationship trumps all. It's like if anything happens, it needs to happen through the grid of relationship. Otherwise, it's like we talk about, it's like God goes for the win-win. God doesn't play win-lose. That's just not how he does it. And we think that win-lose can be a shortcut to what we want sometimes, but that's not God's, his way of doing things. So when we talk about, people will ask you, well, what does an HRH training session with a horse look like? What do you do first? And the first thing is, put it in neutral. It's not about the doing. It can look as different as whatever that horse might need. Think about with the kids that come out. What are you going to do with your kid? You can have a fabulous plan, and the kid comes into the gates and they are just like blah, or they're bouncing off the walls, and you realize you got to meet the child where they are, and then work from there and see what happens with that. But my highest goal, and when we do this, our highest goal is always, always, always about what is the quality of relationship that I can create with my horse. And it doesn't matter if I'm sitting on the edge of the hay manger pulling plugs out of the hay net so you can eat them easily, or if we're doing fun liberty stuff. It's about what's the quality of connection we can create. If I'm doing applesauce syringes to help them accept doing oral medications. It doesn't matter what it is. It's about how does the horse feel about being with me after our time together. In service of that, principle number 2 is be here now. 3 simple little words that are just ridiculously hard. Josh and I were playing with this week. I asked him, would you be my guinea pig? And he was great. But talking about, we live in our heads. Horses are fully embodied. And our kids are more embodied than we are most of the time. Even when they get disassociated from trauma, they're usually more embodied than we are. And so talk about what does it look like to be here? We're kind of talking heads that float around with our bodies wafting behind us. It's like, how many of you are aware of your feet right now? How many of you are aware of your elbows? Or the middle of your back or your shoulders? It's like, oh, I have a whole body underneath me. And honest to goodness, I was not aware of mine. So it's like just getting here in our bodies. When we do, it's like I'll put it this way. When we're not in our bodies, the horse is looking at us, it's like we're static on the screen to them. It's like a TV that hadn't come into focus and says, shh, and it's a lot of churn and a lot of yuckiness. As we get present into our bodies, it's like the horses are like, oh, I see you, there you are, that's so nice. And we suddenly entered their world, and they're able to recognize us. So when we come in and talk about, being in our bodies, being here now, and I forget which person it was that was talking about this, but talking about, I'm here with my horse, and ultimately with the horse and my child. What I'm not here with is my agenda. So, it's like, and I always Even when I don't have an agenda, I have an agenda. So it's like, I thought my compromise with my agenda is I hold it very loosely. It's like, I recognize you, I acknowledge you, we're just going to hang out over here, but I'm not going to put energy behind it. Not thinking about what was bothering you from earlier in the day, or the thing you're worried about doing later on, or whatever else is going on. It's like, let all that stuff go. You're right here. You have this privilege of being with your horse. Show up with them. When we think about tasks with our horse, thank you. Kim's keeping time for me. It's so helpful. When we think about doing tasks with our horse, we live in a culture that is absolutely performance-oriented and task-oriented. So everything in us, all of our training indoctrinates us in that direction. So this is asking us to grow in a way that our culture does not support. And this is where, and we talk about this at Hope Reins, God works in the round. It's not just our session kids that get healed at Hope Reins. It's all of us that get healed. And the horses act as a catalyst for healing every single one of us who has the privilege of interacting with them. Because it's asking us to slow down. It's asking us to let go of task. It's asking us to let go of performance. What if I can't fill in the blank? I'm sure you guys understand what that feels like. And I say all the time, it's like when we walk into our dry lots where our horses are, they're turned out overnight in the pastures, but they're in the dry lots so we can catch them more easily during the day. If we're not able to be here, it's like we're little tornadoes of worry that are coming into the dry lot. And we'll joke around, we've got a session, training someone, and it's like they're coming in, and I'll be working with someone, and she'll be like, wait, I'm coming in hot. Let me breathe. It's like, yes, that's better. And so we're starting to recognize this about ourselves, where before this, I don't think we would have even recognized that we were coming in hot. We have an agenda, we're doing a thing, we just came off a meeting, we've got an hour, then we've got to go back and get another thing done, and da-da-da-da-da. So the other thing, the next thing that is one of our principles is looking for the softest, most effective conversation possible. Now, when we talk about being soft with horses, oftentimes, and I've been in the horse world for all my life, and I've watched all the iterations, and usually see people fall off on one side of the fence or the other. Either there's too much domination, or there's this limp noodle thing that goes on. Neither one of those work. So it's like looking at, can I offer my horse softness while also being effective? And so if a horse says no, one of the things that we do when a horse doesn't offer, I have an ask, I've got my horse haltered, I'm saying, let's go a place. Nothing. And we go through and say, before you increase energy, because we're working with beginners, so we got to get people thinking. Before you add any energy to your ask, you ask 4 questions. The first one, is the horse in pain? So example could be, we're leading them out onto some gravel. All of our horses are barefoot trimmed, but they don't live on gravel, so they're not acclimated to it. So, okay, maybe move them around to the other side. Address a pain issue. Are they did a cut? Are they limping? Whatever else. But you always check for pain first, because there's a lot of undiagnosed pain going on in the horse world. The second one, are they afraid? So, and afraid can be like what he's describing, like great big eyes, snorting, dancing. Afraid can also be a little ambivalent, or I'm just not sure that I want to, or I feel a little uncomfortable. Horses have a big range of emotions. It doesn't need to look like, at the far end of the range. If a horse is concerned about something, think about it. How well do you think when you're scared? I don't know about you, I don't think really well. And if someone adds pressure to me when I'm scared, what's the likelihood of me being able to think my way through a situation well? Yeah, not so much. And so if a horse is nervous or concerned, acknowledging that and addressing that with the horse is the next step, rather than just pushing them harder through the concern. The next one is, Are they confused? They can be confused by a number of things. They can be confused because my body is giving them conflicting signals. I was asking them to go forward and someone called my name. I said, yeah, what is it that you need? And I dropped them completely. Or, I'm looking away, or someone's just learning how to do a thing and they're not sure what they're doing. They can be confused because they haven't learned a thing well. When we bring new horses on, they don't know our specific language, and so if a horse is confused, again, just like if a child's confused, I'm not going to give them the instructions slower and louder. I want to break it down to little steps. So it's like if I'm asking a horse to back up and they're getting braced, it's like, can I get a drop of the head? Can I get a response? Can I get a rock back from their shoulders? Can I get a little step and a release? So I'm going to break it down. What's the littlest ways that we can do that? And again, we're talking with horses here, but how many times do our kids feel stupid or like they can't do a thing and they get in trouble, or they're having a problem with something and they're not sure what to do, and now they're scared and confused. And they're like, oh, this doesn't feel good. And so the fourth question, are they in pain? Are they afraid? Are they confused? It's only the very last question that says, is it my leadership? And if it's my leadership, then I need to look at how do I respond to the horse in a way that gets their attention, that meets them on their wavelength. It's like, and again, I loved his example of, if my horse is, having a problem with something, I need to not react along with them. But if my horse is like eating grass and he lives in a grazing muzzle when he goes out and we're out eating grass and he's going, the grass isn't done, I'm not done either. So I may need to get a little larger because that grass conversation's happening in a really large emotional space in them. But it's only at that last time that we add more energy into the conversation. So do you see how that brings about a clarity and a fairness? And you think about kids who've dealt with violence and abuse and the idea that, I can't tell you the number of kids that want to come in, and if a horse doesn't listen, they get big because that's what was done to them. And so to be able to say, actually, let's ask some questions about this situation. Let's take a look at that. What if this isn't about the horses challenging you, they're not respecting you, or they're challenging you, or they're not obeying you? It's like, well, maybe they're hurting, or maybe they're scared, or maybe they don't understand what to do. These are totally new concepts, and we're helping the kids live out what is a healthier relationship way of being, with the horses there. And so, we're looking for that softest, most effective communication possible. So when the partnership breaks, and you guys, I know I'm not the only one in here that has had to learn to put her ego on the shelf. It's like when the partnership breaks, it cannot be about, it just became personal. It just can't. There's no room for that in the work that we do. It has to be about, wow, okay, you are a sentient being, I am a sentient being. This is how God works with me. He doesn't get mad and go pound me. He goes, hey, honey, come on back here. What's going on? And works with me. And so sometimes we have to get more interesting. A horse is bored. Well, I would be bored with that too. Let me get more interesting for them. Let me find what motivates them. Ashley was talking about earlier, one of the horses, Aaron, was motivated through movement. The other one, Lacey, was motivated through rest. What motivates your horse? How do you meet them where they are? And then the last principle we have is we have learned not to get more complicated. We do simple things with increasingly greater connection. It's been really neat in working with kids and recognizing that just being near a horse, our nervous systems co-regulate with the horses. That's Thank you, God. He arranged that. We don't have to do anything. We just have to show up and get near a horse, and our nervous system begins to co-regulate. Our kids' nervous systems begin to co-regulate. We don't have to get fancy for our kids to be impacted. But if we can get more and more deeply connected, that's when the magic happens. That's like the coolest, thing that we found here. So I'm going to stop just talking at you, and I want to put this here so it doesn't blow away. I want to get a volunteer. And what we're going to do first is part of what we do when we teach people Hope Reins Horsemanship, we begin with what we call simulations. And we'll go in here together because there's more space. But who would be willing to be a volunteer with me? Come on up. Tell me your name again. I know I saw you in the other clinic, but... Janet. Okay, Janet. We're going to brave the door, and we're going to see if we can get in here. Yay! Thank you. Thanks. Haha! That can't be done. Yay! So what we're going to do, and I'm just going to give you guys a little taste of what happens at our ranch as we begin to teach new people and people who've been with horses their whole lives but maybe not worked in this style, how to begin talking using Hope Reins Horsemanship. So the first part, this is going to be so cool for you because you get to be the horse. I'm going to be the person. So I'm going to have you put your two hands through there, and then you're going to take these little knots, thumb and forefinger in each of them, and you're going to hold it like that. And now, I promise I won't let you get hurt, but I'm going to have you close your eyes. So this is going to be a trust walk. And we always begin with this because our default mechanism as people, we're predators. We grab and we pull. So in working with horses, you don't see them pulling each other around by the mane and the dry rod. They drive. They use a driving pressure to move one another, and they are really subtle. I see all the time, horses play on a grand piano, humans play on a xylophone. We have about 1 octave. We usually start at rude and end at not yet effective. So in working with horses, we need to get so much softer on one side and so much clearer on the other side. And so horses really broaden our scope. So what I'm going to have you do, you're so sweet waiting here for me. I dropped you completely. I'm going to have you just follow where you think I'm asking you to go. So, and there's no wrong whatsoever. This is for, Janet, you said? This is for Janet to have an experience of what does it take for a horse to actually experience a feel of something. That's wonderful. I realize you can open your eyes. With the sand here, it's quite a trick keeping your eyes closed and walking around. Yeah. So for you guys, I want you to notice, was there any point in time when there was any actual pressure on the lead rope? No, there wasn't any. So I'm going to have you we'll do the same thing with your eyes open so you can see that. Okay, so you're there, and so this is what I was doing. And so you see how little pressure it takes for a horse to have a feel to follow. And this is, again, we talk about how do you ask a horse to follow a feel? And it's that soft. And so it's looking at what does it take to to have a horse move forward, stop, move back. So that's like just the basic piece of that. So I'm going to show you next simulation. Again, I'm going to let you be the horse, so you don't have to do no performance involved whatsoever. So I promise I won't. These tools, I know, and honestly, so that's a real question, and everybody, like, you got a big old stick and a whip on the end of it? I thought you guys were nice to horses. And we tell people all the time, and everyone who uses natural horsemanship is like, this is an extension of my body. I'm vertical, horses are horizontal. This allows me to be horizontal too, very easily. It also allows me to stand in a partnered way, just like Ashley was talking about in the Liberty Clinic. I'm going to be between your shoulder and your head, right there next to you. I'm not going to be... And here's the thing. You can walk in front of horses if you want to. If you're teaching people who either have the habit of doing it or are brand new, that they can do that, it is the most natural thing in the world for someone to go, come on, let's go, which feels just like that. I'm so sorry. It feels awful. And we do it without thinking. We have the assumption that because we pull, a horse should come with us. So instead, what we're going to do is I'm going to be next to you as a partner. I'm going to bring my energy up. I'm going to look in the direction I want to go. I'm going to extend my hand forward. You have a little feel on that line, don't you? Awesome. That's that soft ask. Oh, look, she came with me. There we go. And once she starts walking with me, if she does, I'm going to drop my hand back down and we'll walk together. If she doesn't and she's confused, we've never done this before. So we go confusion. I might go, let me take a step away from your shoulder to open things up a little bit so I'm not crowding you. And I don't mind beginning a little bit in front of her. This is clarity. I'm just teaching her how to do a thing. There we go. And see if she gets a little more confident walking up alongside me. Very, very nice. What a good girl. And then we're going to go to stop. And I love it. I lifted this up, and you did what every horse does. You went, hi, what did you want? So we talk about, again, we're working at how to do simple things well. With the little kid, it's, we don't want the horses turning in and on top of them. So if we're walking, and I'm going to ask you to stop, and let's walk together, I'm going to take my training stick, and I'm going to just lift it up in front. Puts a little driving pressure in front of us. It also says, my lane, your lane. So it just adds a clarity to the horse. If she didn't want to go, I might add a little, asking those 4 questions. You're not in pain. I don't think you're scared. It's like, we've done this a time or 2 years. I don't think you're really confused. I may add a little bit of pressure. Just a little driving pressure from behind. Oh, there we go. We got this. Before we do anything with our horses, we always, always, always make sure they're comfortable with our tools. So that's how we do that. So what I wanted to do, and this will be fun, and you have to do this with me. We're going to, let's see, Kimmy, how much time do I have? Excellent, excellent, excellent. We're going to put a halter on Honey. I think your name's Honey. Lacey was the other one, yes. So actually, we're going to come up, and we'll do this together. And I'm going to just show you guys a little bit of what does this look like. How do we do this when we're teaching HRH? So as you walked over there, we're actually going to use this halter here. And what we're going to do is we're not going to just walk straight up to her. Horses rarely go straight at another horse unless they want to drive them. So if I'm coming straight at you, and I want you guys can feel this, if I'm coming straight at you, that's a lot of pressure, isn't it? It really, really is. So if I'm going to come up, I'm going to come in. As soon as you acknowledge me, I'm going to turn a shoulder to you and go, yeah, see you too. Hi. So, and then hey there. And I'll come around to the side. Horses do like serpentines and circles and curves. And when I come up to connect, if I touch, I'm going to touch at the shoulder, or I'm going to touch at the hip. I'm not going to go up to the horse's head. That's that's a more delicate bubble for them. So we're going to do this together. And this is like just like if I was teaching someone back at the ranch. So now, two predators got an eye on Honey. so what we're going to do you see how she just gave us an eye and an ear? We're going to both just turn and give her a shoulder. So, and that just lets her know we see you. We see you seeing us. There we go. And now we're just going to kind of do a little, kind of curve out here up, and we're going to stop. As soon as she notices us, we're going to stop and turn away. So, for those of you that have done training, you recognize the release is coming when the horse makes connection. That's what we're looking for. I'm looking for you connect back to me, I'm going to take pressure off of you. So we're going to come back around, and again, we're kind of, look, and and she just put a little nose down. That's, for people who are familiar with it, that's a calming signal. When they reach down to scratch or touch, they're putting their head down below their withers. They're signaling to us that they're not a threat. We can dial down the pressure. This is a mic'd person coming at her that she doesn't know is a fair amount of pressure. So she's also, it's a way of taking her own adrenaline down. So she's like, what are you guys doing? Look, I'm cool here. You okay? And so I'm deliberately, nice deep breath out. I'm lowering my shoulders. I'm just kind of chilling. Hey, honey. She's got that eye and ear on us pretty good. I really need to get that hay. Oh, there you go. Sweet girl. Sweet, sweet girl. I know. Hi. Hi, darling. Yeah. You sweet thing. And do you feel that connection in her curiosity? She is like, what are you guys doing? What's this about? And I want to acknowledge that. I want her to know from the very beginning that she has a voice in this conversation. So these are little ways that we can do that. And so now she's like turned her head to acknowledge us. So we're going to come up. I know, honey. So some intense grazing there of her. Hi, darling. And you see as I pull away, she comes and moves her head there. So what she's telling us there, as we move closer, and she's like pulling at that hay net, she's like, I'm real anxious, they're coming at me, and boy, this is a lot of pressure. Horses are so much more sensitive than we are. And we took that little step back, and she lifted her head up and was like, oh, that felt better. There you are. And so this little give and take conversation happens right here. So I'm going to come over, and I'm all the way in her bubble, and I'm just going to come and put a hand on her. It says this long, slow blink and turn away, and I could feel her body harden. So she, that's enough for her to tell me, that was a lot right there. And she's so polite. She's such a good little girl. But we're going to connect with her in a way that she's comfortable. So we're going to do a whole circle around to the other side because it's easier to halt her from that side. There we go. And I'm going to keep talking so our other horse here can also track me with her hearing. Hi, baby. Who's a good girl? No. So she's got an eye and ear on us and is very, very committed to her hay net. Hey, lovey. Let me see. Oh, there. So I put a hand on her. She turned her head away. I removed my hand. I drew back, and she came towards me. I put a hand out to greet. so at this point, with a horse that, doesn't know me yet, is not my horse, and we have just a couple minutes, she's standing quietly. I will take that as, what did Bree say, good enough to go on? That's enough to take our next step and put a halter on her. For our own horses, I will probably take a little more time. There you go, honey. So the next thing that we're going to do, and I'm going to let you hold her. Once I put a halter on, I'm not going to immediately take them away from the hay. So we're going to just take a little moment. She's doing that. I'm going to halter you. There you go. We're here together. We're eating hay. Your world doesn't change instantly just because you get a halter on. And it's like these little politenesses that horses really, really appreciate. Another interesting thing that we talk about in Hope Reins is, I don't know about all of you guys, but for myself, and I call myself a touchaholic, I always like to be touching horses. I'm kinesthetic at all. I mean, I was touching you to say hi to you. But recognizing when we touch the horse, let it be for a specific reason, as opposed to just sort of that comfort of connection. And so if I touch the horse, it may be they have an itchy spot and I'm scratching it, or it may be that I really want to make connection there, but that I don't have my hands on them all the time. Your horses next to each other, they don't touch each other all the time. So now that we've been with her and we've let her eat a little bit of hay, I'm going to have you just really gently ask her to come with us this way, and think about what you felt before with your lead rope on, and you can do it just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. She's like, what you doing? And that was awesome. Jen, I love it. As she was asking questions, you didn't escalate up. You held that there. You let her ask, like, what are we doing here? What's going on? And you didn't extend the pressure up. So did you guys see that? She turned around twice. She was sniffing at the lead rope and going, what's going on here? Let's ask her to come this way. We've created some connection, and just offering her to follow that feel and maintain. So you guys see her eyes and ears? She's really engaged with her. It's like, wow, this is different. Very, very nice. So you see she's thinking her way through? This isn't a horse that's belligerent. She's licking and cheering. She's got like a kind of a wide, wondering eye. Her ears are going back. She's like, what is happening? So I'm going to have you come towards me a little bit. We're going to invite her to come out this way. Very, very, and then when she does, there you go. Do you see how connected she is with you? Like she's feeling back to you with each moment that you're moving. And once she starts moving, release that pressure from the rope. There you go. Very, very nice.
Reward her?
Instead of rewarding her with touch, I want you to stand next to her, take a deep breath, and exhale out. There you go. And that's one of the things, and you see her lick and cheer here. It's like, we reward with a pat or reward with touch, and that's often more for us than it is for the horse. And to go, a companion who stands quietly beside me feels really lovely. That's a very nice award. And you see how connected she is with you. Yay. And so these are just like I wanted to give you guys like a little appetizer of what it is we do, how we look for that relationship with horses and build, we've built a language that helps people to understand what we're doing with it. So I'm going to have you go ahead and take her halter off. There we go. And we're just going to stand here a moment. Hi, honey. Literally. There we go. And you know what I love? We just slipped her halter off and she didn't go back to the hay right away. So that tells me we did a good job. So she's like, I'm not sure what y'all are doing, but I'm happy to hang here with you. And that's you. This is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. This is starting to talk horse and being someone that the horses find is good news. There. So do any of you guys have any questions? I just wanted to open up a moment. Yeah, and we're going to move, we'll let her go. Sorry, baby. You were so much fun.
Children actually end up riding, or is it more just ground?
That's a great question. Tina just asked, do we end up riding or is it just ground? And we don't do independent riding at our ranch. What we do is we have a bareback pad with a treeless saddle pad underneath, and the mentor has got the horse on a lead, and so they get to have the experience of being held by the horse, of moving with them, of breathing with them, and all of that. But we decided that our lane was not teaching riding. It's totally an amazing thing to do, but that wasn't our lane. So, but we have kids up on horses doing lead line riding is what we call it. So, yay. Any other questions? So I wanted to let you guys know that one of the things we're doing at Hope Reins is we are getting ready to launch a training program called Headquarters for Hope. And we are going to be offering, the first part is going to be online, it's called The Essentials, where part of our vision is to be able to give similar ministries the tools that they need to be able to learn some of the things that, boy, did we have to learn it the hard way. It's like y'all should not have to reinvent the wheel. So if you're interested in that, we have some pamphlets there that talk about the Essentials Headquarters for Hope. It's on the red table right up in front here. Please come and grab a pamphlet. You'll hear more about this in the coming weeks as we get ready to share this. And it's not just in horsemanship, it's across the board with leadership, with programs, with developing, with all of the different areas that it takes to do it. But thank you guys so much for coming out. Yay. Thanks, that was wonderful.